Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Created for This podcast. I'm Danielle Roberts. I'm an accountability coach for Christian business owners. And today I have the lovely pleasure of having my husband join me on the podcast. And we are answering questions from viewers and listeners and my friends who are curious about all the things. And so today we're going to just go over through some things with you guys. So the first question is, how do you keep your marriage strong through trials? And I think we're going to have different answers on this. So go ahead, Lucas.
Oh, thanks for letting me take the first swing at this huge question. I think one of the big things for me, as I grow older, I've learned that, which I kind of talked about this on the other podcast, I've realized that you come into the world not with an open mind. On the contrary, we usually come in with a lot of preconceived notions. And when you're married and when you have kids, when you feel angry and frustrated and upset, it's because we have expectations, we have assumptions, and they're not being met. So for me, something that's helped me for my end, we'll see how well I've actually done, I don't know. But humbling myself, I think a lot about how when I'm upset or everything, it's like, okay, is it really possible that Danielle did this or didn't do this because she is actively campaigning against me, or she's like, just the things you think of when you're upset that seems so plausible when you're angry. It's so silly when you take a second to step back and be like, okay, she probably doesn't even realize, because I'm not the center of the universe. So it is possible that there are thousands of other things that could have taken her attention, and I do those same things. I miss things. So the humility is super important for me. I think about that a lot. Taking those opportunities to step back outside of myself, and when we have opportunities to talk about if expectations were missed or whatever. But I think a lot about humility, and if my kids do something that really upset me, and to having those moments of clarity where you step back and you're like, okay, they're 7, they're 5, or whatever. So that's been huge for me, is stepping out, realizing all the preconceived notions I have, and having the humility to step back and forgive them, forgive myself, whatever. But humility is a huge core of that.
Interesting. I wouldn't have guessed that. That's a good answer.
What was you going to say then?
Well, for me, obviously prayer first, and being I'm a hothead. My dad, he's nodding his head. For those of you not watching the YouTube videos, he's nodding his head. The patterns that I learned growing up were to yell. And that's something that I've had to break as we've been married. And it's gotten better, I think.
Yeah.
As we've gotten, further along in our marriage. So for me, I have to take that time to pray and to calm down and to breathe and think through the situation. And when I am able to think clearly about things, I'm able to, like he said, assume the best intention, not oh, he's just falling asleep because he doesn't want to do anything and that's why he's the deadbeat on the couch. That's not really true. He probably just needed some extra rest or whatever. So I think having the better intentions recognizing that the best intentions are there. And also, I would say we have done we've done the Enneagram test. That was like 5 years ago. And then we've also done the love languages and learning each other's love languages. And I think that's really helped us through trials, because I think we are better able to understand how each person deals with certain things. And then obviously communicating. I'm a woman. I like to talk. So I'm like, hey, how are you feeling? Like, what is this? Like, how can we do this better? And so I think just keeping communication lines open instead of closing down. I'm more of a one, if he's not talking, I'm gonna not talk as much sometimes, and depending on the situation. Just because I don't want to ruffle feathers, but I don't want to like leave him out in the cold, in the dark, whatever. So I think that way, communicating and then admitting that you're wrong if you're dealing with problems between the two of you, if there's, trying to do trials between the two of you, then you have to, be humble and admit fault, which it's kind of funny, like, when one of us is like, oh, I was wrong, like, forgive me, I was wrong, whatever. We kind of make a big deal out of it. But I don't think that there's enough people that admit their fault when it's really their fault.
It's a big thing, like, it seems so childish, but you're right. Like, there's so many times where, and kind of looking at, both your parents and my parents, it's just like, that's such a huge, that seems to be this huge barrier that was what broke the marriage. In my parents' case, was just an inability to own your shortcomings, or when you have expectations of someone and and you don't justify why they need to meet these expectations. Just there's that inability to own your mistake and move on. So yeah, I think humility is kind of the core of both our answers, I think. But what were you going to say was mine? It seemed like, because I had a different answer than you thought I did.
I don't know. I didn't have like any preconceived thoughts. It was just a good answer.
Well, thank you.
And so one thing I will highlight is we have gone to counseling before.
Yes. No, it's like it's such a taboo thing. Like, you're going to take your car to get it checked, even though there's not necessarily anything wrong with it. Like, it's good to just talk to somebody. A lot of times, when you ignore something, and then you get to, like, you forget you ignored it, and then there's this resentment there, and you have no idea why the resentment is there, but you keep plodding along and you try and tough it out, whatever. When you're in counseling, stuff will come up. And you're like, oh my God, let's just talk. Let's get it out. Let's talk about it. It makes your marriage so much better. Mm-hmm. So even if you're not having a major, like, it's been a little while since we've been to a counseling session, but we're still open to going back and having those conversations with a third party who's been trained and knows how to ask the questions and how to listen and get everybody involved. Those are good. Like, marriages where they haven't had any counseling, I don't know how they do it. I don't think we could have. Like, it's very, very helpful.
No. Well, and I think for me I was doing a lot of counseling when I was dealing with a lot of my depression and suicidal thoughts and stuff like that. So that wasn't time when we needed that third party to be like, okay, guys, like, let's talk through this. Lucas, this is how Danielle is like dealing with her depression. And, I love the fact that you look at it as maintenance, because we do need to have that maintenance every once in a while just to tune up. And, I think too, just along the lines of keeping open communication is the fact that we prioritize date night. And we prioritize each other by, spending the money, taking advantage of very willing grandparents who are wanting to help us succeed in our marriage, just so that we do have that continual work on our marriage and on each other. And I think that there is, just like with any relationship, I think the fact that you have to continue working on marriage, it takes work. It's not something that's going to just come naturally, because we are selfish beings, like just in general. So I think that's something you have to keep in mind too, is that even if it's a trial, or if you can head off a trial, whichever way, if it's something that comes up and it's like a natural event, like an earthquake or a hurricane or something, you can't prepare for that. But you can do things to help your communication. You can learn your love language. You can prepare as best you can to weather that storm in whatever occurrence.
And the only thing I would add is your marriage is a garden, not a machine. I think we think in terms of, we live in a digital age where we download the right stuff, or we, go into the system and adjust it appropriately, and then everything should work. And we're very organic beings, obviously, and our relationships, I feel like, are super organic, so you'll take the right advice and you'll do the thing, but it doesn't change right away. You're like, well, we did the thing. Why isn't it working? You have to, in the same way that a plant has to sit under the sun for a certain period of time before it bears fruit, you have to live under the right conditions for things to come about the way they're supposed to. So thinking of it that way, I feel like, has allowed us to have the right expectations of what a marriage should and should not be.
And this, ladies and gentlemen, is why I'm married to him, because he spouts off poetical things like that. No, I like that. That's a good point and a good way to look at it. To cultivate the relationship. Yeah,
it really, like, you think of it in terms of a garden. It takes a lot of time, and we should have that sort of patience with ourselves and our spouse.
Yes. Which is not always easy.
No.
All right, so the next question. How do you deal with resentment if someone is supposed to, in quotes, be responsible for something but keeps forgetting to do it?
I'm gonna go out on a limb here. I'm gonna say this person has assigned something to their spouse, something that is important to the person, and may not be as important to the spouse. And now the person is becoming resentful that the spouse isn't, they keep forgetting about it, because again, you guys have different standards about this thing. And it doesn't matter how many times you tell this person, this is why it's important to me. This is, kind of like our earlier podcast, it's just not going to translate over. It's just not. If this is something that really, really bothers you, you can either do it one of two ways. And we've done both ways. You do the thing yourself. I started doing the laundry. Or you can adjust your expectations, like Danielle did with the kids' toys not being in the right basket, and just allowing them to throw whatever basket was available to throw the toys in. And then occasionally going, I guess, reorganizing the toys. And I like that you use the word resentment, because that's what's happening. You guys divvy up the work, and then they're not doing the work. Oh, actually, this reminds me. We actually just adjusted one of the things. So we've been doing the laundry the way we've been doing it for a long time. Up until a couple months ago, the original deal was I would wash the clothes, take all the clothes, wash them, whatever, and bring them back upstairs. And then I would handle my clothes. Danielle got to do everybody else's clothes, including the kids. And for a long time, clothes would just stay in the living room. Sometimes it would just stay there the whole week. and it just wasn't getting done. And it bothered both of us to, I think, different degrees that wasn't happening. And I was feeling resentment, like, hey, I got all the clothes downstairs, I washed them, I brought them back upstairs. Like, why aren't you, and it was, it's a lot of work. And then the other problem too was the clothes would sit and get wrinkled. And then I was spending more time taking my work clothes, making sure I had enough time to wake up, grip my clothes, go downstairs and iron them, whatever, or throw them in the dryer. I've done that too. So I don't know how long ago it was when I started doing it. It was a couple weeks ago, I guess.
Like 2 or 3 weeks ago, yeah.
So now what we do is I get all the hangers from upstairs, bring it downstairs, and as stuff comes out of the dryer, I hang it up, irrespective of whether it's mine or whether the kids or Danielle's, whatever. And that's helped out big time. So now the clothes, when I bring it up, most of them are on hangers, and it gets put away a lot faster.
It does.
So we fixed the laundry problem, we fixed the clothes in the living room problem, and I fixed my resentment problem. I started, and how that came about was I did something extra that wasn't part of the original deal. Me taking the hangers downstairs and hanging them up as stuff got dry. It created a little more work for me than what was originally mine, what we agreed to. But I did it, and it's helped out a lot. And I don't feel the same amount of resentment about that. Period. I'm not going to say I'm like resentment free. I'm not a perfect human being. All right, but that's how I would deal with it. Is like, okay, if this is something that's building resentment, it's important to you, and your spouse is just for whatever reason, it's just not clicking. Just change. Just do you need to change. Mm-hmm. You can't expect your spouse to change for you. You have to be the one that changes.
Well, and that too came about because I don't even know if it was prepping for this podcast or the previous one, but I had asked a question of what can we be doing better? Like, how can we do something better? What are we needing to change? And really continuing to dig into our rhythms, our routines. What's something that we wish was different? Clothes weren't getting hung up or folded because I hate folding clothes. And that's the reason why we hang up most of the clothes in our household, is because I hate folding. And we also, part of that too is because we have our kids put their clothes away. Most of them. Minus the pants, which go in the drawer. Folded. Hopefully to stay that way. So the socks, underwear, pajamas all get thrown in their drawer, and they're fine. Like, our 2-year-old can handle putting away his laundry. See the previous episode for that other information. So we were talking about how we wanted to do things better, how we could do things better. And he was like, well, I really don't like how you leave dishes sitting on the counter and in the dish drain so long. Again, listen to the other episode, because he's the one that does the dishes and he explains it all. So that was, I don't want to say like part of our agreement, but it was one of those like light bulb moments, like, oh, I could be doing this better. So I think personal responsibility is a lot of it, like taking responsibility for your attitude and your actions. And, like he said, really changing what you can change, because as I learned with my parents as an angry 13-year-old, you can't expect other people to change. Other people will not change for you. You have to be the one that makes the changes. You have to be the one that has the attitude adjustment. Yes, I wish my parents would have changed, but I think I learned a really valuable lesson that you have to be the one who is willing to make those changes so that you control yourself, because we alone are responsible for our reactions and our actions. The end. Okay. This is an interesting one. Do you get jealous of each other's work?
I can go first.
Okay.
There are parts of it, but mostly no. So like the other episode we did, I love that we keep referencing this other episode.
Yeah.
But you're the control center person, right? You have 50,000 different things going on all at the same time. And yeah, there's nothing about that I want to do. I have things that I got to stay on top of and everything, but my work is set up where I go in every day. If an agent replied to me, great, then I can respond to them. I can check to see what policies are getting ready to renew. If I still need things, and that reminds me, like, okay, now I can go after that person. But creating all these different deadlines and everything, but the flexibility is nice. I know when she gets to go to San Diego or Charlotte for all these different conferences, that's pretty cool. But besides those other perks, whatever, I don't know that I'm super jealous of what she does. Just because I know what type of person I am. I know what things I'm, at 31 years of age, I feel like I know more of what it is that I like to do for a job. And running this type of business is not one of those things.
I am not jealous. I feel like right now we have created the life that is amazing and abundant and works for us as a couple. I don't know if other people in our, if somebody else came into this position and took our place, if they would enjoy how we have it, because I feel like it's really good right now. And that's how I've been feeling this season, is that it's really good. Like, it's hard, but it's good.
It's very rewarding.
Yes. I wish that I could go out and interact with more people. I think that's probably the biggest thing that I wish that I had, if I were in his shoes. But, we've tossed back and forth, like, hey, I could get a job at the local coffee shop. I could do this. I could do that. And I'm like, I guess I'd rather just have the flexibility that I have with my job. And the fact that if my kids get sick, I can keep them home without too much having to take things off and doing whatever I'm doing. But I'm really passionate about what I do, and I don't think that I would enjoy insurance work as much as he does. Although it's really interesting, and I enjoy the things that he teaches me. So that answers that. And that is all our questions.
We're only 23 minutes in, so we can talk about something else if you want.
Or we could do a different podcast.
That's also true.
Yeah. So we'll leave this one short for you guys. If you want to listen to the other podcasts, if you just happenstance listen to this one from somebody sharing it or something, you can go find out more. And we have 2 other podcasts that we've done together. One back in April, and then more recently, whenever this other one goes live. Those are at DanielleMRoberts.com, or you can search for Created for This on iTunes and find that, or on YouTube. Created for This is going to be where you can find that too. So thanks for joining us, and we will chat later. Bye.
Bye.